Welcome to the Bam Bibliophile, a dusty corner of the internet where we try to not look dead inside, but are betrayed by our eyes. Yeah, there's no helping that one, unfortunately. My name's Bailey, one part of the dynamic duo over here on the channel, and this is my February wrap-up. First up is The Last Hope in Hopetown, a middle grade urban fantasy about Sophie, a 12-year-old human raised by her two adoptive vampire moms. In recent decades, vampires voted to finally walk into the light, letting the world know they were real and hoping humanity would accept them. Now, vampires hold normal jobs and even adopt human children. This new normal is suddenly threatened when dependable, law-abiding vampires turn rogue. After our MC's own mother goes rogue, Sophie decides it's up to her to find a cure. But taking matters into her own hands means braving a secret council of vampires and executing epic heists. With her best friend by her side, Sophie will fight for hope, freedom, and a family bonded by a love that's thicker than blood. This is one of my favorite reads from the month. I was delightfully shocked by the heartfelt family dynamic and the palpable love the characters had for one another. I was especially touched by how adored Sophie is by her mothers. In a lot of middle grade and young adult fiction, there's this running joke that parents and authority figures are severely lacking. It's like there are zero adults looking out for these kids and taking an interest in their lives, which allows them to do the downright crazy and largely impractical things they get up to. But The Last Hope in Hopetown actually featured two very present parents who possessed nothing but an unmistakable devotion toward their daughter. Even if we put all that mushy-gushiness aside, we're left with two powerhouse ladies with phenomenal histories to share. Can you imagine a parent describing to you what it was like to be a Viking shield maiden or Marie Antoinette's friend? I can't. Those are cool stories and not the, when I was a kid I had to walk 78.63 miles to school in 5 feet of snow that went clear past my waist, and that was while I carried a backpack weighed down by bricks. It built character type of story. Love you, Dad, though. Oh, that voice hurt my throat. I'm sorry. Ultimately, this is a novel about changing the narrative and supporting the marginalized. The masses become suspicious of vampires as more turn rogue. Instead of understanding that these were isolated incidences, the undead are suddenly being categorized as entirely bad or untrustworthy. The actions of the few become their one and only story. Did my earring fall out? The actions of the few became their one and only story, erasing inherent value. In other words, the entire group became a sum with an ugly connotation. It also doesn't help that some people didn't like vampires to begin with. The whole blood-sucking thing just wasn't doing it for some. This message of treating people differently because of a distinct lack of acceptance can be applied to numerous real-world situations, and I like how the novel's ending was hopeful. If we put in the work, we can build systems and attitudes that support the people we share space with. Everyone deserves equal opportunity. In this case, that includes people with no heartbeat who enjoy a blood slurpee. Grado negative. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know what good blood tastes like. Sure, this wasn't a perfect story. Some things were a little weird, like the fact that children who are turned into vampires are never able to mentally mature, so they're stuck with an adolescent mentality forever. The solution? Require these vampires to perpetually attend school so they're eternally around peers their mental age. Forever repeating 7th grade. No thank you. Also, that whole thing I said at the beginning about absent parents being a thing to further the plot happens in the last part of this book. The Last Hope in Hopetown actually has a good reason for it though, but yeah, it doesn't make me believe that children are capable of dismantling an entire conspiracy. If you're not into implausible scenarios, steer clear of this one. But if you want a heartfelt book with a mystery that builds to a heist, pick it up. As someone who grew up on Twilight, Vampire Diaries, and Search to Freak, I don't think I'll ever turn down a vampire story. Next is the YA anthology All the Sunken Souls. We're all familiar with the tropes of the horror genre, slasher and victims, demon and the possessed, bloody screams, haunted visions, and the peddler of wares we aren't sure we can trust. In this anthology for fans of Jordan Peele and Lovecraft Country, readers will get a little of everything they love and fear through a twisted blend of horror lenses, from the thoughtful to the terrifying. From haunted, hungry Victorian mansions, temporal monster-infested asylums, and ravaging zombie apocalypses, to Southern Gothic hoodoo practitioners and cursed patriarchs in search of black excellence, All the Sunken Souls features the chilling creations of acclaimed bestsellers and hot new talents. It's always hard to talk about anthologies, but I'm ecstatic to say this one had a lot of standout entries. The most notable is undoubtedly Mother, Daughter, and the Devil. The premise is that a girl cursed by the devil at birth because of her mother's actions is suddenly presented with an opportunity to take control of her life. The pacing, the plot, the characters. I don't know if I've ever read anything more perfect. Every element feels like finely woven threads that craft a breathtaking masterpiece. And while it's not a book itself, this story is easily my favorite piece of fiction I've consumed so far this year. I didn't want it to end, but am satisfied it concluded in the only way it could have. In perfection. Buy or borrow all these Sunken Souls from your library just for this entry. Another story I immensely enjoyed was Be Not Afraid. A young black girl arrives at a church with a white congregation. When the clergyman discovers she can heal, he mistakes her for an angel and keeps her hidden, abusing her abilities in the name of personal glory. This one is short, snappy, and not what I expected. In other words, I loved it. Don't even get me started on I Love Your Eyes. A couple celebrates their anniversary by visiting the boyfriend's ancestral mansion, but something is brewing between them. This one seems to be less love compared to other entries, but I think the atmosphere was flawless. From the start, I told myself this was giving Frankenstein vibes, and if you know, you know. Once the final reveals are imparted, you immediately start to wonder how this relationship ever survived in the first place, but I couldn't look away. The author wrote in such a way that I ate every word, and I would devour it if it was a full-length novel. All These Sunken Souls does an impeccable job of breathing life into the horror genre. It captivates, it thrills, it horrifies, and it demands your attention. Fresh ideas laced with disquieting discoveries are waiting just beyond the cover. In Things in the Basement, a young boy named Milo discovers a portal to a secret world in his basement. It was supposed to be a normal basement, some storage boxes, dust, you know, the usual basement stuff. But when Milo is sent by his mother to fetch a sock from the basement of the historic home they've moved into, Milo finds a door in the back that he's never seen before. Turns out that the basement of his house is enormous. In fact, there is a whole world down there. As Milo travels even deeper into the basement world, he meets the many things that live in the shadows and gloom, and he learns that to face his fears, he must approach even the strangest creatures with kindness. Ben has impeccable art. His character designs and the imagination used to bring them to life are a sight to behold. I adored every panel and felt immersed in this strange, fantastical basement. In a weird way, the whole experience was nostalgic even. I felt like I was a child again playing Fate, but instead of exploring layered dungeons, it was a never-ending descent into basement land. They are the same yet totally different. One thing to note is that this book, while not completely wordless, relies significantly on the artwork to convey the story, and the dialogue takes a back seat. I think this is pretty common for his books. And while this choice makes Things in the Basement a perfect graphic novel for young readers, as an adult it made me feel a little bored, which is weird because I will shout from the rooftops my love for wordless picture books. I wish I was a consistent human. While the lack of speech made it quick to fly through the pages, I think I would have liked a more immersive situation. If we're approaching this from a logical or continuity standpoint, characters wouldn't always express in words what they were thinking because they weren't human. A component that makes complete sense why we get shown a lot more than we get told. Yet, maybe some inner thoughts and not necessarily a conversation between characters could have made for a deeper experience. The setting was strong and the concept worked fine, but I was never truly in love with the book outside of its riveting graphics. I do still recommend this though, and bought a physical copy for my own collection because I thought the messages in it were beautiful. We learned that friendship is priceless and facing our fears is intimidating but worthy of our efforts. Lastly, I have Improbable Magic for Cynical Witches, an atmospheric lesbian contemporary romance set in Salem. Eleanor is the least likely person in Salem to believe in witchcraft or think that her life could be transformed by mysterious forces. Ostracized by her classmates after losing her best friend and first love, Chloe, Eleanor has spent the past year in a haze, vowing to stay away from anything resembling romance. But when a handwritten guide to tarot arrives in the mail at the witchy souvenir store where Eleanor works, it seems to bring with it the message that magic is about to enter her life. Cynical Eleanor is quick to dismiss this promise until real-life witch Pix shows up with an unusual invitation. Inspired by the magic and mystery of the tarot, Eleanor decides to open herself up to making friends with Pix and her coven of witches, and even to the possibility of new romance. A YA novel about a coven of witches in Salem? Nothing was going to stop me from reading this.
Nothing.
Improbable Magic for Cynical Witches is a very imperfect, messy story, but it's one that's addicting and works towards healing. Eleanor has got some trauma. Actually, she's got a lot of it. To make matters worse, she doesn't have the tools to cope. She ends up creating a number of bad habits that lead to other problematic events with their own side effects, but I think she's a testament to strength and resilience. Sure, we could just focus on the book's drama. Eleanor's past love interest and the boy she becomes romantically involved with are deplorable, not to mention that the guy's friend group is atrocious. In fact, they're in the running for the most obnoxious and callous side characters ever. I just kept asking myself, why are high schoolers so mean? No, actually, why are people so mean? But since I can't answer that question without having a meltdown, I'll just say that this was a beautiful portrayal of picking up the pieces of your life after it feels like it's been irrevocably shattered. It's about enduring bad choices and even worse circumstances and finding that there can still be something brighter on the other side. Eleanor is a testament to the fact that you can move on to better things even when you feel hopeless. Grow as a person, learn from your mistakes, and accept that you can't change the past, but you can choose your future. If you find your resolve waning, there is a pool of strength you didn't even know you had residing somewhere within yourself. And if you need to, you can also borrow it from your friends. In terms of the book's structure, it has a unique format that directly ties into a tarot deck. Each chapter begins with a card and a corresponding explanation, and then that card then ties into the events of that chapter. Tarot has always intimidated, yet captivated me, and even after reading this book, it still does. But the beauty of it is that I know a little bit more than I did before. If you like a juicy past to slowly unravel throughout a book, this one's got you covered. You know something big, with a capital B, happened to make Eleanor so closed off from the world, but you don't quite have all the pieces. Over time, the events are slowly revealed to you in all their emotionally climactic glory in a way that only good old YA can deliver on. My biggest gripe is that they made fun of Cher's hair in The Witches of Eastwick. Who does that? As like a criminal offense. Shame on you and your coven. Shame, 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 shame. That brings us to the end of my wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave down below your favorite and least favorite reads from February, and I'll see you in the next video.